ready, as today we are going to create rules to generate a pattern and plot those points on a coordinate plane. Let's get into it with our I will statements.
Remember, your I will statements are your goals for this lesson. They are what we are trying to work on and learn more about throughout our time together today. As we continue on in our lesson, make sure you have your mind focused on these three things and showing them to your teacher. I will read the I will statement first, and then we will read it again a second time together. Make sure you're reading it nice and loudly so I can hear you, but no shouting necessary.
Pause the video now and review the I will statements as a class, having your teacher read them first and then the second time reading them together.
This activity is called the Math Quest Race. How this activity works will be explained on the screen, but I will go over the rules now quickly. If you want to pause at the end to answer any questions that you guys might have, pause before I instruct you on what you will be racing. How this activity works is you will each be given a piece of paper. It might have facts on it. It might just be a blank note piece of paper, but you will be instructed to finish a certain amount of problems in 1 minute. You will try to finish however many you can, but every time we do this activity, you want to try to get a few more problems done. Even if it's just one more problem the next time we do it, that still shows us that we're improving our race stamina and we're getting better at our facts or recognizing patterns. When your teacher gives you your papers, you're not allowed to start until the teacher says go. When the teacher says go, all of you will flip your paper over and you will have 1 minute time to fill out as many as possible. If you finish before the 1 minute time is over, turn your paper over and draw a picture on the back of an angle in the real life setting.
Mathematicians, today we will be generating a rule based on the different points that we find in a table while graphing our coordinate points on our coordinate plane. Let's start off by looking at line L. We're given a point in line L here. The point is 1.5 is x and y is 3. Let's plot that on our coordinate planes now. We can see that our boxes are split up so that each jump represents a half. If we want to go to 1.5, we have to go all the way over to 1 and jump one box in. So we're between 1 and 2. That's 1.5. And we have to count up 3. So we'll find the 3 on the side and we'll go over 1.5 and draw our first coordinate pair. Our first coordinate pair here represents this point that is in our table above. Put your coordinate pair on your graphs now. If we were trying to figure out a rule for this line, we would have to use the x and y coordinate that we are given to start with. In this case, 1.5 and 3. Given those 2 points, we would want to think, what's the difference or how could I maybe get from one another? Looking at this one, I can tell that y is twice as much as the x coordinate, and the x coordinate is also 1.5 less than the y coordinate. Because of this, in distinguishing that pattern, we're able to figure out a rule. So if I'm visualizing line L, I'm going to be able to have all of my points be twice as much as the last one was. We can also look at our rule as if we add 1/2 to x, we'll get our total. Let's write that rule in our rule spot above. So we're going to say add 1.5 to x. If we add 1.5 to x, that's going to give us y. Write that rule on your papers now. Now that we have point A, let's try for point B. If B, let's say x is 2, we're going to use the rule that we just came up with to figure out what our y coordinate would be. 2, if we add 1.5 to that, would give us 3.5. That gives us our x point 2 and our y point 3.5. We can keep going to create more points on our line. If we had 0 as an x coordinate and we added 1.5 to 0, our y coordinate would be 1.5. If you're ever coming up with different points to help you fill out a table and to create a line, different numbers to start with are always those lower numbers on your graph. Those are going to be easier to plot and compare later on. Let's continue and do one more. Now that we have 2, 1.5, 0, let's do a little bit higher of a number. Let's do 4 so we can stretch out our line. If we did 4 and we added 1.5, we would get 5.5, giving us our final point of 4 and 5.5. Pause now and make sure you have all your points in here and they match up with our rule above. Now that we have our table completed, we're able to take each of these points and just like our original point, plot them out. Let's plot those points now on our graph. This is what that should look like. This is what our points on our coordinate plane should look like. Once we have all our points, we're able to connect them and make line L. Now, we established the rule add 1.5 to x, but we also talked about different things like y was double x and x was half of y. All of these were different ways that we could have written out our rule and we would have still gotten the same result. When generating a rule based on two different coordinates, the rule can be different, but you'll always get the same solution. So you will continue on working on line M. You may come up with a different rule than your neighbor or a person nearby you, but you should be getting the same points in your table, depending on if you have the same x and y coordinate. And once you graph your line will look the same no matter what points you picked. Good luck plotting line M, mathematicians, and I'll see you guys soon.